Ballot, where politics meets real life. We break down state and federal issues, showing how policy shapes everyday Americans. Engaged, balanced, and informative. That's our promise. I'm your host, Mikkel Jenkins, and we will have our famed co-host joining us as well. Muhammad will be joining us, but we are just going to get started. And before I get started, I want to say congratulations to the Sixers on beating the Celtics and moving on to round two in the NBA playoffs. I am a Sixers and Philadelphia sports team fan, so it's great to see Philadelphia sports, especially the Sixers, overcome the Celtics. I believe this is the first series won against the Celtics since 1982. So it's been some years, but glad that we're here. And so we have a lot to talk about since our last episode. We have a update on the war and regarding Project Freedom and Strait of Hormuz. And then we are also going to be touching on a lot of what's going on with CETCOM, some comments that Barack Obama has made, and we'll dive into the AI sector and the hidden environmental cost. Someone actually provided a very nice comment about us breaking down really data centers and the oil crisis. So, from after talking about data centers, we are going to get into farming and the economic pressures and the overall ripple effect of this war. And then lastly, we'll round it off with the airlines updates with the very middle class, low class favorites. Spirit Airlines finally shutting down after 34 years with zero accidents. So it's definitely sad to see because I've been someone that has traveled on Spirit during my early 20s. So it is sad to see a economy flights, economy airline, should I say, just as Spirit Airlines to no longer be in operation. But however, let's get started with the update on the Strait of Hormuz. So, the situation in the Middle East has escalated dramatically today, and it's now clear how the fragile April 8th ceasefire between the US and Iran has broken down. And here is a sequence of events. So, you have the United States launched naval ships supported by fighter aircraft as part of Project Freedom to protect neutral commercial shipping crossing the Strait of Hormuz. Several of these vessels were then intercepted by Iranian small boats and fired upon. In the direct retaliation, the U.S. Air Force engaged and struck Iranian small boats, including at least one attempt. One was attempting to fire on the protected ships. Iran responded by launching cruise missiles towards the Gulf, attacking additional boats, and escalating the confrontation. U.S. Air Force and Navy forces are now actively engaging targets in the region, with the U.S. and Israeli military considering strikes on Iranian missile launchers and a parallel attack on an Iranian energy facility in direct response to today's Iranian attacks. So this breakdown follows earlier strikes. So you have earlier today, the UAE confirmed that Iran hit one of its ADNOC oil tankers with two drones after it attempted to pass without authorization. Which is a called and I'm sorry, Iran called this an act of piracy in violation of UN Resolution 2816. Numerous explosions were reported in Dubai as UAE defenses engaged these missiles. Residents received missile alerts for the first time since the ceasefire, and a fire broke out at a petroleum site in Fujairah. And on top of all of this, a South Korean vessel was also hit in the engine room. Luckily enough, all the crew members, about 24, have been safe. And Reuters reports that Iran has targeted both commercial and U.S. military ships with cruise missiles. And in response to those attacks on its territory, and assets. The UAE has now stated it will strike back at Iran. And this is marking a significant widening of the conflict, where you see a key Gulf state now prepared to take direct military action against the Islamic Republic. And we also know that UAE and Qatar have been privately pushing for this war and even for of new tax to be coordinated against Iran to push them in submission over the Strait of Hormuz. You have the IRGC Navy broadcast a maritime emergency on Channel 16 that the Strait of Hormuz is closed to all vessels, and any ship attempting to cross will be destroyed. And we've seen that from what we've been talking to at the start of this podcast, how Iran has already struck a few ships. And I know there are some conflicting reports about the Iranian missiles hitting a U.S. ship. I have seen various videos out there, but both sides are saying it was hit, it wasn't hit. So it's not clear as to what is fully accurate out there in the reporting. But however, Iran has declared a new control zone. An Iranian lawmaker stated that the strait will only reopen if countries accept Iran's dominance or face another humiliating defeat. Traffic remains extremely limited, with most vessels avoiding the U.S.-backed corridor. And with all this going on, the U.S. is now facing a major credibility test. These large scale attacks on the UAE go well beyond of misbehaving and directly threaten critical energy infrastructure and international shipping. We know UAE has been very let's just say cautious in how the United States has structured its military strategically around the Gulf, and really has prized Israel above all else when it comes to the Gulf states. Even though you have the Secretary Scott Bassett always continuously saying that UAE is one of our greatest allies in the Middle East, but yeah, we have left them to dry on the military front, and they are taking bombardments left and right from Iran and destroying key energy infrastructure that is going to have major additional ripple effects, which we will get into. And Trump has, previously stated that he would strike Iran in such a case where U.S. ships that are guiding other ships through the Strait of Hormuz are attacked. And many analysts say that failing to respond forcefully would cause the U.S. to lose all credibility within the region, essentially forcing America to pack up and leave that region. And I would definitely agree with a lot of those statements, because if the U.S. isn't buckling itself up and isn't standing strong with a lot of its Gulf allies, as these attacks intensify, whether it's on the ground in the states or in the countries, or whether it's the actual tankers, you will see a lot of these countries start to lose confidence with the United States. And with all of this, the legal picture is awkward because, as we all know, Trump's original 60-day war powers resolution expired on May 1st. And to justify new strikes without Congress, the administration would need to show that Iran directly targeted or disrupted the humanitarian project of Project Freedom, that mission, basically. And that's how Donald Trump is getting around that 60-day war powers authorization. He's framing it as a humanitarian effort. And it's a combination of that, and if there are any strikes on U.S. non-combatant assets, or that the U.S. forces are currently under attack and responding in real time. So Iran has hit the UAE, and the UAE does not automatically create a new 60-day imminent threat window or fresh war powers authorization. As a group of now Senate Republicans are working on a limited AUMF as a possible workaround. So Donald Trump has a way to work around that 60-day authorization, which is needed from Congress, and which he has stated multiple times that he doesn't need Congress to basically conduct military operations and so forth. This is giving him a legal backdoor, basically, to all of that. And it is once again eroding the powers of Congress. Congress has once again letting their powers be stripped away by the president because no one wants to stand up to him and what's really going on. I mean, the War Powers act was almost passed. I think it was only like maybe like 5, 6 votes short of passing. You even had other Republicans flip, I believe, such as Susan Collins. So there is starting to be a crack within that full-fledged allegiance regarding the president's foreign policy, because a lot of these Republicans are going to have to try to get reelected come November. And wanting to speak more on Project Freedom. The project itself is active as it started on Monday today, and CENTCOM commander stated that just now that the U.S. has cleared an effective pathway for ships to leave the Strait of Hormuz, though mines do remain. Rather than traditional full escorts, the operation uses multi layers that include ships, helicopters, aircrafts, airborne early warning, and electronic warfare. The CENTCOM commander added that this layered approach has already proven effective this morning after U.S. forces returned fire at Iran. CENTCOM also confirms that two U.S. flagged vessels successfully exited the strait under the mission through the IRGC, though the IRGC has disputed this. The full operation is supported by guided missile destroyers, more than 100 land and sea based aircraft, multi domain unmanned platforms, and approximately 15,000 U.S. service members. Rules of engagement for all this have been updated to allow strikes on immediate threats. President Trump and Secretary Scott Bassett, and I would say a form of weakness, in my opinion, have called on China to help reopen the strait. A source tells CNN that U.S. and Israeli strikes are expected within the next 24 hours, and I believe that is going to be in an effort to try to get China to have a heavier hand within all of this, because we know it was just reported that China is simply just ignoring the sanctions for, I believe it was 5 tankers that China had told them to ignore the U.S. sanctions. So we are now seeing the realignment, realistically, of global powers within that region. You are truly seeing the United States lose its credibility, which we touched on, uh, lose its military show of strength as Iran has stood the testament of all of these missiles and bombings. And then now you also have what is going on currently. So with all of these things funneling out on the military side, I definitely want to touch on to what's going on the diplomatic side, because Iran submitted a three-stage peace plan. Phase one focuses on de escalation and reopening the strait with mine clearing and non aggression pledges. Phase two addresses limited nuclear enrichment capped at 3.6%. Phase three calls for a new regional security framework, and Trump called it just a concept, but said talks are moving positively. So hopefully there is some form of deal that is either facelifted off of this, or this is used as a framework to put together a constructive deal that can officially end this war. In broader context, former President Barack Obama told the New Yorker that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu actually tried to persuade him to go to war with Iran using arguments he later presented to Trump. Now we all know during that whole presentation that Netanyahu had for President Trump, it was a PowerPoint presentation, the stellar PowerPoint presentation that I like to point to, that we now know was shown to Obama, and all that information was shown to Obama. And Obama stated that maybe Netanyahu got what he wanted, but I doubt whether that's what's good for the citizens of Israel or the United States. There is extensive documentation of my disagreements with Netanyahu. Critics note that Obama's opposition went far beyond policy disagreements. His administration openly interfered interfered in Israeli domestic politics in an effort to unseat Netanyahu and install a more competent leader who would support his Middle East agenda, his as in Obama's. And then adding to the ongoing debate with all of this, the possible next prime minister of Israel, I believe his name is Naftali Bennett. This is pretty concerning words that he had to say. And basically, he has issued strong warnings about the consequences of America's disengagement from the region. Bennett said that the U.S. could face another 9/11 style terrorist attack unless the Americans understood why they must fight the wars Israel demands. Understand that this individual is running to unseat Netanyahu. And he is a worse case than Netanyahu, which it seems like, how could that even be the case? Because Netanyahu is so evil in his actions and what he has allowed the Israeli people to do. And that has allowed for high levels of suicide rates to affect these IDF soldiers. And he warned that terrorists could even nuke the United States without Israel as an ally, stating, "I was in Manhattan when it happened. I saw those buildings on fire. That's what happens when you say the Middle East isn't our problem." Bennett's comments reflect a hardline view that a strong U.S.-Israeli alliance is essential for American security, not just Israeli interests, and that is completely the opposite from what a American voter gets from this. What you get from this is that Israel will never leave America alone or sees themselves as the rightful partner in all of this to Israel. I mean, to the United States.
Hello,
And
Mikhail. Sorry for joining in late, everybody. And
no,
Mikhail.
you're perfectly fine. We're actually at a pretty good spot right here. We're wrapping up a little bit of what's going on with the Strait, such as Project Freedom, the nonsense behind that, and kind of the jeering Trump is trying to do to get Iran to strike so that he can have another form of his 60-day war powers authorization. And then now we're currently on some damning comments that the potential new prime minister of Israel has stated. I don't know if you saw this or read
I
this
haven't
comment.
actually.
So he basically stated that, in layman terms, I'll put it, that if America does not fall to, well, not does not fall, does not let's just say, run to all of the wars that Israel demands the U.S. to go to. He said you could possibly see another 9/11 style attack or even a nuke if America separates itself from Israel as an ally. And just think about that, because because people do like to point how 9/11 could have been potentially done by the Israelis in some sense and form, but it's terrifying to see that our government officials at the highest levels call Israel and this Zionist government are greatest allies when you have them and individuals that are looking to be within that prime minister position actively threatening the United States, because the American population is waking up and knows that what Israel wants is not in the interest of Americans at any point. At
I
any
mean,
point.
I think I wonder how much of it is the fact that Israel has had so much dirt on American politicians, so it's become more of like a people will clearly respect it. Therefore, not respect it. People are in the situation where they're unable to say anything against Israel because of either threats or blackmail X Y Z.
Yeah,
And then just because then they get Israel, the Israeli lobby gets a lot of support through financial support like APAC or through these blackmail means, then it's like, well, we got all these people who are pro-Israel now. If I don't go for Israel, then I'm all of a sudden like the black sheep, and I'm going to be ostracized out of the group and deal with it.
yeah,
And I've seeing like the possible next prime minister's comments. I mean, I believe Ben Gavir said something similar before actually, and it's just like in Israel, they're incredibly used to being able to body and harass American politicians however they want. Essentially, I mean,
yeah,
we know that the CIA themselves have said every single time they have an Israel invite to the American offices that they leave bugs behind every single time, and it's to the point where clearly, like, we don't trust their own intelligence, except on a political level. Like our
Yeah,
intelligence does not agree with the Israeli intelligence. I mean, even
yeah,
that was a big component of what happened with the Iranian war and Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump fall off was that Gabbard said, "Yeah,
yeah,
our intelligence says they're at least a year plus away from nuclear weapons. Whereas Israel's intelligence is in the back ear of the political side of things, with the president and Congress saying, "Hey, no, no, we're telling you, they're months away, weeks away, even from a nuclear weapon."
yeah.
And
We heard that time and time again, time and time again. Yeah, continue.
And so it's just like, the Israelis have gotten very comfortable having that direct access to the government through the executive and the legislative level. And it's really going to take a change there for them to lose that arrogant confidence. But I mean, I think once they lose that arrogant confidence, they'll probably switch over to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Desperation mixed with arrogance as well.
Yeah, and their desperation would be to instigate a false flag within the United States to effectively allow for, if this happens within Trump's time as president, to basically give a full green light for full scale invasion, ground troops, all of,
Imagine
all
like
of, all of it.
imagine some kind of like terrorist event during like the election time frame. Like,
I
like some like
would.
voting polls get bombed, so he's like, "Oh, gotta send in the military to lock them all down."
Yeah, I mean, he was speaking, I think, today, and Trump was even saying, when I leave this office, and I think he said like 6 to 8 years. I said, huh? He said that. He said 6 to 8 years when I leave this office. I'm like, it's either he's not joking or that dementia is running through rapidly. I don't
I
know
think
which one
that
it is.
dementia is running through rapidly.
I don't know what it
If he
is.
thinks he has any bit of a chance of actually going for their term.
No, it's well, yeah, I would. I mean, I know that he doesn't, given the Constitution, but I've been listening to a lot of individuals and lawyers that are on his team, and when you have members of Congress who are asking those lawyers, like, do they understand how that piece, that section of the Constitution is written regarding terms for the president? They're all like, oh, well, there could be, like, they always try to find some hole in it, and that's the danger, realistically. Once you have someone who has run out their time, and you have individuals within their circles trying to actively disregard the Constitution, not one of its strongest pieces of the Constitution, but one of the longest standing, given that Washington was one of the first individuals to put in that precedent. That precedent was obviously challenged by FDR, but
Yeah, they
FDR's
made it. They
situation,
made it an amendment because of your favorite president in the world.
yes, yes, because at
They're like,
that
this guy
because
is
what
literally
that
trying to
situation
seize the
is
power.
that situation is completely different than what's going on currently, and
He
it
threw
definitely would have
Japanese
been.
people in concentration in internment camps. Like, come on, don't get
No,
me wrong.
I'm
I
not.
do
I'm
agree that
not.
FDR has some more sensible policy than Trump. But let's not act like it's comparing the Messiah to the devil.
No, I'm not saying it's comparing it, the Messiah, to the devil, but if you look at all the presidents all together looped into one, he is one that settles at the top of them all. I mean, just cross the board from what he's done, all the long-standing programs that are still intact that people need dearly till this day. Wouldn't have unions without him, wouldn't have Medicaid, wouldn't have Social Security, wouldn't have all of these programs without him. And yes, during World War II, he was elected again, died in office, but that was a special situation where it was World War II. But however, we are not at that moment, not at that moment at all. An election still went on. He just happened to run again. So it wasn't like elections were canceled. He became president for a third term, and then that was it. That was not the case at all. But that is the case, that is starting to get to the case of what Donald Trump is trying to do. That's why when you try to compare it to FDR, that's apples and oranges right there. Completely two separate contexts for why one was okay and obviously the current is not, because this war is in no scale, as when it comes to military might, damage, X, Y, and Z is very low than World War II. realistically. But on those comments that we were talking about from the prime minister, I was also talking about Muhammad, how Obama spoke to the New Yorker and actively was stating that, he was shown the same stellar presentation that I keep talking about that Netanyahu showed to President Trump, and Obama did not fall for it, didn't fall for it at all. So it's terrible to see that, Donald Trump frames himself as being so smart and having the smartest people in the room around him. However, we see that they're dropping left and right by their incompetencies in their capacity. And, we're also seeing Donald Trump bite off more than he can chew in almost every single major issue that he ran on, especially on the economy, which we're going to get to, and especially on this AI front. And we're going to move to that now, basically looking at the AI sector, a little bit of updated information, as well as the hidden environmental cost, because there was a very glaring photo that I saw about in Texas where a data center was basically making it look like it was about, 4 or 5 o'clock daylight savings time, sun is shining over there, but it's really all the lights and electricity from this data center. So, new research shows massive data centers are creating heat islands with local surface temperature rising an average of 3.6 Fahrenheit, spiking as high as 16 degrees Fahrenheit in very extreme areas. So, these facilities strain wildlife, water supplies, and local electricity demand. A single hyperscale data center can consume electricity equivalent to 2 million US households. 2 million US households. Nationwide, demand is projected to nearly double to 150 gigawatts by 2028. That's going from 6.7 to from 6.7 to the original 3.6. So it's getting high very much fast. And electricity usage is something that we're seeing, and the Americans, especially in the utilities, constantly going up left and right. And this administration is actively cutting green energy projects, whether they're in, well, especially in Democratic states, but especially if they're even in Republican states, he's just cutting them across the board. And then looking at water consumption is equally staggering, potentially equaling the annual use of 18.5 million households by 2028, with Texas alone facing up to 161 billion gallons per year by 2030. So not only are these data centers running up our electricity bills, they are actively reducing our resources when it comes to water. So we are seeing the AI boom explode, and we are the ones being blown up from all of this, and we're not seeing a stop from it. I know there's pieces of legislation that have been put in, but they're not gaining traction. There is no traction for this at the moment, besides the announcing of all of these deals left and right from all of these AI companies. And it's just very sad to see that we are being left, not just
Mm.
in the financial aspect of it, but also in the employment
I
aspect of
mean,
it. That's
I
something that,
mentioned this. I mentioned this before, I
yeah,
believe, on this podcast, but I think this is like a really good thing to like bring up when you talk about data centers and the energy costs. So when there's a nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania called 3 Mile Island, and Three
yes,
Mile
yes, yes,
Island was shut down in the early '90s, late '80s because they had a nuclear scare meltdown, and there was two reactors. One of the reactors was at threat of melting down. Didn't, because the procedures and the staff stopped it on time. Second was not under any threat whatsoever. But they shut down both because this is like during nuclear scare time in America. So it's like, oh shit, nuclear reactors almost melted down. Last thing we need is another Chernobyl in America.
literally.
And and since the 30 years, 40 years later, nuclear sentiment in America has really come a long way since. But point being is that in recent history, in the last 2 years, Mark Zuckerberg approached the state of Pennsylvania to buy one of the nuclear reactors because after the TMI shut down, the
Yeah, I remember
ownership
that.
was like put in the hands of a private company or like given
Mhm.
to the government, or, like bombed by the government XYZ. But he purchased 3 Mile Island for billions of dollars. So they were able to turn on nuclear energy for a billionaire to use however he wanted for his data center, but they couldn't turn that on for the people of Pennsylvania. at any point.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
could have, but they
no,
chose
not
not to.
no, not for any point, and that just once again ties into how the average American is losing this AI battle, and how we really need to
Absolutely.
have our elected officials stand up to it. And there are a few in there that are fighting that good fight on this front, but there are a lot that aren't, even making it an issue. But however, just like with Texas and all the other southern states and northern states that are having these data centers implemented within their state, it's skyrocketing costs. I mean, Americans near these centers are seeing energy bills up as much as 267% over 5 years, with sharp hikes in Virginia, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and others. In arid states, water scarcity is promoting new restrictions. Literally, you're going to start seeing a lot of these states putting in restrictions when it comes to water usage. And it's not even like it's like a global water usage crisis or anything like that. It's literally because of these data centers and these AI companies wanting to make hand over fist, while all of these individuals that lived by them are just drowning with high costs across the board from energy, and with a lack of resources from water. It's a very damning situation, and it also ties into the next piece that we're going to get into, which is another shock and awe, which we've talked about, is farming and the economic pressures. Really, the ripple effects of what this war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is really affecting, and how Americans are going to feel impacted by it. So, newly released economic data paints a very tough picture for the current economy. The national average for gas prices has skyrocketed to $4.46 per
Ooh,
gallon.
ooh.
Today, I literally saw leaving work 4.59. 4.59 in New Jersey. Not even a Sunoco. No, just a regular gas station. 4.49. As I've said,
California up to above $6.
yeah, Chicago is $6 too, and it's just ridiculous at this point. And then you couple that with, U.S. foreclosures have surged to a 6-year high. 55% of Americans say their personal finances are getting worse, the highest percentage ever recorded. And mind you, this was supposed to be the golden age of America that the Trump
So
administration
much
continued to
winning.
say. Yeah, so much winning. Oh gosh, they posted a hour-long video of him just saying winning for an hour. I was like,
Really?
what?" Yeah, I was like, "What is this?
You
Like,
know how
what
funny it'd
what are
be if
we
this is,
doing?"
like, before the age of AI? Or, like, like, let's just assume they don't just loop us the same video of him saying it once over and over again, like, it was literally just, like, a video they had of him just standing there for an
Sitting there
hour.
just saying it for
Re
an hour, that would be hilarious.
Dude,
Um,
it's funny seeing a grown ass man play with AI like this. It's kinda sad that he's our president, though.
it's very, very, very sad. It's funny, I think someone said that King George, for one visit, he was here with Nixon, and then his current visit with Trump. And someone said it's kind of sad that he is still younger than both. Than
Yeah,
Nixon when he was president, and then as well as Trump. And Nixon was the president like decades ago. So it's like it's just sad that we have such old leaders running our country on both sides of the aisle. It was terrible we had Biden as
absolutely.
well. Terrible we should not have geriatric leaders leading this country, because this is the situations that we get into. And then you have, also coupled with all of these economic pressures, Americans are saving at the lowest rate in 3.5 years, and 73%, and at 73% rate, the overall economy as poor or fair, including a majority of Trump voters. So, I mean, not to be mean, but this is what you voted for, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is truly unfortunately what you voted for.
I mean, do you think
Uh,
Kamala could have done a better job?
I truly think Kamala would have done a better job. I don't
And
see
I
any of
mean,
her
aside from
policies.
the Iran war, which I'll
Yeah,
agree I
besides
don't
the
see her
Iran
doing.
Iran war, a lot of her policies didn't center around doing illegal things. Like the tariffs, first off, she would have not have done tariffs, so that when you would not have that high cost and all of these goods from a year ago. So that's on one hand of it. When you look at the individuals that he's put into the cabinet, I mean, they're dropping like flies left and right. I would
Oh,
believe
yeah,
she would put
absolutely,
in a
especially
better
right now.
cabinet with actually scholars and experts within their fields, not just people that were from one party and just switched just because the dichotomy is switching, or even just people that have had a podcast speaking about a certain topic for a very long time, and might have had been in that field for some years. It's no, it's like we want actual experts to be within these areas of the cabinet. And you go into what I was talking about, like the green projects, the green energy projects, you wouldn't see those cut from every other state. You wouldn't see this rounding up and embarrassment of ICE agents and the killing of two American citizens. You wouldn't see alligator Alcatraz be set up and then immediately taking down, wasting more American taxpayer dollars. You wouldn't see all of
Yeah.
these things uh, happening at all. And I still hear people say that Kamala would have been worse and they would still vote for Trump. I just don't understand how you can wrap your head around that given how bad it is. Like, you truly think that it could get worse than this? That she could be worse than this?
Yeah.
And mind you, she's way younger than him.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't the logic behind it basically doesn't wrap my head around it. Because even you had Biden, his job is doing way better than what Trump is doing now. And everyone bashed Biden, but now everyone's starting to like Biden.
I
It's
mean,
like they
this is what I'll say
called him
about
Sleepy
Biden.
Joe because you were able to go to sleep at night and not have to wake up thinking that the world was gonna blow up, literally. I
Mm,
mean, and now we're at a moment where we have such an erratic leader to where you don't know what's going on, which is not saying good or bad, but it's like it's just false information being portrayed out there, and it's just lies left and right. And the only thing that Americans are getting is footing the bill on high prices on almost every single metric, unfortunately, and saving a lot less, as we were just reporting. And coupled with all of that, which Muhammad always gives a very good analysis of when we talk about this, it's the a weaker U.S. dollar is also driving up import costs for groceries, fuel, and travel, and this compounds the chaos from the Hormuz blockade. Oil prices exploded. Brent went over $1. I mean, $119. WTI up to 107. So, I mean, this is not going to get any much better. And then you have jet fuel costs, which have also nearly doubled. And that kind of breeds into why Spirit Airlines closed down. There's also another reason, which we're going to get into, which actually some Democrats had some movements against Spirit Airlines during Biden's term, which kind of did lead to Spirit Airlines being shut down, which we will get into.
yeah,
But yes,
big deal.
coupled with the high jet fuel cost and what we'll get into, both of those things have allowed for Spirit Airlines to shut down. 34 years, no accidents. The one true middle class, low class economy flight is now currently gone, and hats off to the one individual who is now actively trying to get funds to go ahead and buy Spirit Airlines publicly. Shout out to him, and hopefully it does end up working out. That would be a great if the American people ended up owning Spirit Airlines. That would be something to
I don't know. I
see.
don't know about that. That'd be an interestingly run
Oh, the
company.
government would never allow. The government would never allow that. The
No, the
government would
government. I mean,
never.
technically, if the government owns the company, then the people own the company by the "we the people" means. But
Yeah, yeah,
I would
yeah.
not want a government-run airline.
Oh
I
no,
don't.
no, not at all, not at all. And then with all these gas prices and with the food shortage as well, which we're going to get into, and as well as some of the increases on the auto sector, we're going to get into that part next. Um, with all these diesel trucks, obviously they have to bring you your food, your groceries, all these other things. Diesel sitting above $6 right now. So we
Yeah,
all
it's
know
bad, dude. It's bad.
during COVID, individuals were talking about how there wasn't a lot of movement of trucks because obviously everyone was shutting down and so forth, and that adds
Mhm.
into the price of diesel. And when diesel starts getting very high, it gets way more expensive to allow all of these tractor trailers to travel throughout the country. And Moving to the auto sector, perfectly enough, they're facing a double whammy with this all. So they're facing higher aluminum prices from the Iran war, a 50% US tariff on, I think it's cars coming from the EU, and a major supplier outage are already straining automakers and adding billions in costs for vehicle production like the Ford F-150. And on top of that, the US auto loan crisis is accelerating fast.
You
The
know how
average amount.
interesting wait, I just wanna add,
Yeah.
do you know how interesting it will be if this, like, shock and fuel prices is what really sets, like, the dominoes down? You know, like, all these companies now having to face,
No, I mean, every
50%,
company has to use
100% more
fuel in
prices for
some
gas,
way.
airlines going out, trucking companies, and more grocery stores, and all of that would be affected.
Yeah,
I
offices too, like,
yeah,
people that drive to work. And think about, like, all of the, like, the gig side work, like Instacart, all of those things that people do to get by, they're not going to be able to do because they can't fill up their tank to get around. So you're gonna see this trickle effect really start to happen, and I believe it was reported that California actually received their last barrel of oil, of foreign oil, should I
really.
say. Yeah, and yeah, last barrel of foreign oil they received, I believe it might have been over the weekend, or it might have been Friday. But yes, they have received their last barrel of oil, foreign oil. So that crisis over there in California is going to exacerbate, and across the country it's going to exacerbate. But where I was getting to, on top of the automaker, auto production crisis as well, with tariffs and rising costs and gas and diesel. On top of that, the auto loan crisis accelerating. The average amount owned by underwater car borrowers rose to 7,200 in quarter one of 2026, the highest on record and the fourth consecutive annual increase. Over the last 4 years, the average negative equity has jumped plus 71%. Roughly 30% of car buyers who trade in a vehicle in Q1 were underwater. And this is largely because pandemic era vehicles bought at peak prices have lost value faster than borrowers can pay down loans, all
Yeah.
while elevated vehicle prices and interest rates continue to squeeze buyers. Auto credit stress is clearly spreading. And on top of that, you also have many Americans within credit card debt as well. So the
It's
debt is just spreading across America
student
like
debt,
a disease.
credit debt, mortgage debt, car
Mhm.
debt. It's literally ingrained into the society of how we're supposed to live is to be in debt, and then it's like a surprise when things finally hit the bed. You know, shit hits
Literally.
the fan. They're like, "Oh wow, you know, this is someone else's fault, not ours."
Yeah, literally. That's and then and then it gets continuously kicked it down the can until we're at this point here, where the shit is hitting the fan, but it's not fully, let's just say, on the canvas is the best way to say it.
Yeah,
But then wanting to move to the farming crisis, which is greatly intensifying on top of the auto production crisis and the diesel crisis. This is all added into really the grandest crisis of all of this, to be honest. 70% of farmers can't afford full fertilization. As we were stating, diesel up 54% year over year, farm bankruptcies plus 46% on the year, and record low number of farms, 1.9 million. So the strait carries one third of global fertilizer trade, which is now largely offline, of course, because of this war. With Ura, which is the name of the type of fertilizer, which is usually it's just trading at $725 a ton. And then Project 2025 debate continues, as you've had individuals online stating that a lot of the lines within Project 2025 focusing on farming actually spoke to consolidating farms corporately and basically wanting to reduce bureaucracy in various ways so that corporations can now come in and buy up all of these small farms.
yeah,
So you're seeing a lot of farms come under high pressure. So you had first the deportations and the soybean incidents, which hurt farmers even more. You had that injection, I think it was $10 million But Argentina got $20 billion, and then now you're having all of
That
this
still
going
makes me
on.
laugh. That still makes me laugh. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
10 billion to the American farmers. Let's give 20 billion to the Argentinian farmers.
yeah,
That's just like literally the perfect example of how this term has gone for him.
yeah. Well, it's perfect. It's his perfect It's the perfect embellishment of what Donald Trump figures in his head is America first. Realistically, I mean, within the last year, let's just say, well, no, let's just go 6 months. What actual good policy has he put up? Realistically, that actually helps Americans. I mean, could there be some underneath the rug from all of these crazy headlines that come out from this administration, all the things that they're doing? Very well, possibly, but it's not being reported, and it's not out there because there's a lot of wrong things that are being done, and unfortunately, those things are overshadowing whatever good is potentially being done by this administration. But I have not come across. Anything much outside of the baby bonds. That's about it. I
I
mean,
mean,
outside of that,
they
I
rescheduled
mean,
marijuana. Finally,
oh
someone can
yeah,
actually
marijuana
do it.
rescheduling. Yeah, that's a good one as well. And then moving still on this whole farmer and oil
It's a
aspect.
I just
Yeah,
wanna add, since you mentioned the baby bonds, like the
yeah, yeah,
stock baby portfolio idea, I honestly think that's a genius idea.
yeah. It's a
And it
great
just
idea.
bothers me that, like, everything that he does, he has to attach his name to it. Like, it can't just be like, like the American Foreign Investment Fund. It has to
Yeah,
be the Trump pension, like the
yeah.
Trump
The
fund.
Trump pension or
Like,
something like
even
that.
like the government RX website, it's not like USRX, it's
It's
Trump
all
RX.
because of Obama with Obamacare.
Probably, honestly,
He's
probably.
very
Obama didn't even
envious.
call it Obamacare. Honestly, it
Yeah, I
was
think
like the
Democrats just ended up calling it, and then you had individuals. Well, you started to have critics who talked to them on the street. They didn't even know that the two things were the same, as in Obamacare and ACA. Like most people didn't even know that those two are actually the same exact thing, just two different names.
yeah.
But however, still sticking on with the going on with the farms and so forth. But this is going to detail the EPA's E15 waiver, and we spoke about this a few podcasts ago, actually. So that E15 waiver is helping slightly with fuel costs. So that's a 15% ethanol blend, which is cheaper but slightly less efficient in some vehicles. So that's why the sales started on May 1st. So now you're going to start seeing that E15 starting to get integrated in a lot of gas stations across the globe. And when you also start to see you getting less mileage out of your gas, and that is because of that 15 ethanol percentage, because regular gas has way more ethanol than just that 15%. So you will start to see less miles for your gas, but you will get a little bit of relief at the pump. Don't know if one outweighs the other, honestly,
Honestly,
but
I don't put anything in my car except, like, the normal gas that I've been putting in my
no, no,
car.
you're not. No, you're not going to know the difference. That's the thing. Like, you're not going to be able to go to the gas pump and say, "Let me get not
Oh, so they're
E15."
gonna just
It's
essentially
already,
not
yeah,
show
it's
you the
already going to be
option.
like, I'm sure if you filled up your car today or tomorrow, I'm sure they're like E15 is within your car, so you're going to start to see less miles for your gas. And I spoke about this in the last podcast. We there's no levels of relief that are coming to Americans, not on the tariffs, clearly not on gas, clearly not on groceries, clearly not on data centers. And it's kind of like what level of relief truly is the middle and lower class of America getting, when it seems like it's all just been concentrated at the top for numerous years. And it's not just from Trump's presidencies, from other presidencies as well, that this conglomeration of wealth has happened. But however, it has expanded greatly within the last year and 4 months, I will say.
I mean,
And it's just,
he's definitely been with some of the most egregious, political decision making and behavior that we've ever seen in the country.
yeah, no, 100%. And it's egregious that it's not being called out by the Republicans, especially we talked about the Liberty Finance and the Donald Trump family enriching themselves time and time again and over again. And it's being turned a blind eye. But when the fingers were pointed at Biden, everyone, had a microscope looking at it. And I cannot wait for the same to be the case once Trump leaves office, because I'm sure he knows once he leaves, there will be nothing but unrelenting attacks on his conduct within the presidency, the deals he's made within the presidency, and outside of the presidency as well.
It'll be
Because we
very
now
interesting to
know that,
see, like, what they people actually decide to hit him with, and if the Republicans, even after he loses political power, decide to actually do something about it, or, like, just kick back to the cult of personality.
yeah, I mean, who knows? And it's going to be really up to the Republicans to separate themselves from Trump coming down, as Trump, leaves within 2028. And well, hopefully when he leaves, hopefully we don't have anything crazy going on. Um, but yeah, it's going to be up to them to separate themselves, stand on their own 2 feet, just as the Democrats had to when they separated once from Obama and then again from Biden. There is a renewing that parties have to face with themselves when the leader of their party is no longer running or has been putting out detrimental policies to the party. And lastly, what we have here is just the airlines update. Finally, the Spirit Airlines shutdown and industry fallout. So, one more big story in the travel space: Spirit Airlines abruptly ceased all operations and shut down after 34 years as a major U.S. ultra low cost carrier. Its first major airline closure in, the first major airline closure in over 25 years. The carrier grounded its entire fleet, canceled all flights, and left thousands of passengers scrambling for rebooking options and refunds. Spirit had been struggling for years with massive debt, over 7 billion at points. They've had repeated losses and multiple bankruptcy filings. The final nail in the coffin appears to be the sharp rise in jet fuel prices tied to the Hormuz crisis and broader oil shock. The shutdown, though, has reignited debate over the 2024 decision to block Spirit's proposed 3.8 billion merger with JetBlue. The Biden administration's DOJ and Department of Transportation, led by Pete Buttigieg, opposed the deal on antitrust grounds, arguing it would reduce competition and raise fares. Elizabeth Warren strongly supported blocking it, calling it a Biden win for flyers. Critics, which they are rightfully so, now say that block left Spirit without a lifeline, directly contributing to its collapse as fuel costs soared. Republicans, including the current Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, have blamed Biden, Buttigieg, and Warren, arguing the merger could have created a stronger fifth major airline. And on the broader industry side, Delta, United, and American have weathered the fuel spike better, thanks to stronger balance sheets and hedging. JetBlue avoided Spirit's troubles, but is still seeing widening losses. And Frontier and other smaller airlines are under pressure but remain operational. The fallout from Spirit Airlines is a stark reminder, truly, of how fragile the low fare segment has become amid high fuel prices and regulatory hurdles to consolidation. And it's truly sad that we're seeing the closing of Spirit Airlines,
The
but I
memes will
think
be
that
gone
the blame,
forever,
yeah, I mean,
sadly.
the blame needs to be solely, I mean, there is no solely put on blame. It's shared blame, clearly, from the information I just shared. You have, coupled with the Strait of Hormuz, pressures on the oil market and jet fuel prices, along with the 2024 decision from Biden's DOJ. This is a bipartisan blundering. Realistically,
Yeah, I
it's the first
agree.
time you're actually truly seeing the parties come together, and they actually did the wrong things that have now allowed for a very middle class, low class friendly airline to be non-existent at this point. And it
I would
really
have loved to
begs the
see them
question.
actually merge with JetBlue.
I
The
would have loved to see,
government shuts
yeah,
down some of the strangest acquisitions, and then allows other ones to go through.
ye- yeah.
There's clearly, like, well, yes, politics, but there's clearly, like, favoritism at play as to what they'll allow and what they won't allow.
Oh, well,
Like, right
I
now, they're talking
imagine.
about allowing a unite I mean, to be fair, it's the Trump admin, not the Biden admin, but they were
Yeah.
talking about the United American merger, and that
Yeah, I
would
was gonna
just
say,
be
they're gonna
insane.
start to privatize, well, they'll be showing privatization as well as skyrocketing ticket prices, so really, the average American will be priced out of flying.
Yeah.
Spirit,
We'll see.
Frontier, JetBlue
We'll
are
see.
really the low tier flights that you can feel safe to get on and don't have to, shoot yourself in the foot to get a ticket to whether it's go see a friend, family, or just even a vacation. So everything's gonna be very priced out by the average American. So it's like if you can't afford to fly, how are you supposed to, take your kids to Disney World or experience those things that kids are supposed to experience in a sense. It seems like all of these high excursions that we used to do as kids are literally starting to become premiums of life, and it's very disheartening. I mean, someone tweeted, me and my girlfriend were laughing about this. Someone literally tweeted, "We grew up being able to throw toilet paper and eggs at houses, and now we can't even afford toilet paper,
Toilet
eggs,
paper,
or
eggs.
houses." I'm like, that is perfectly spot on because the American dream from when I was a kid was, that two-door garage, picket white fence, decent sized two-story house, two kids. That's the dream that I always thought of. But it's the current economy, the current administration, not even from this administration, even just from on the finance side of things, all the crashes that we've had and no accountability truly being authoritized has led the economy to get to this crucial point, and coupled with all of the horrible mistakes that President Trump has made on the economy and global issues, we're seeing a lot of ramifications of this. And the world global order is sure going to change. And I'm sure you're going to see China, Iran, Russia emerge out of this victorious. And unfortunately, I feel like the United States is going to have some wounds to lick after all this is said and done because we're currently in a stuck war. Unless Iran does something so grave to one of our U.S. Ships or military individuals that we actually do have a full on ground invasion. That's what the administration is waiting for, in my opinion. They want to have a full green light to just go ahead and go inside Iran so
I
that
wonder
they
what would
have
be
peace
like,
for it.
the "you've crossed the line" kinda
Listen,
line.
that theory is still kicking around pretty well. If Iran takes out a USS carrier or destroyer, bet believe he's putting boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And this is their where they're like, we're antagonizing them to do that. We want them to go ahead and do that so that we can have the say and the call to action to go about and send our sons and daughters to fight for this war in Israel, where they won't even send their own sons and daughters to fight. Even though that they have to be in the military and the IDF, they won't send those soldiers to fight with boots on the ground. They only want Americans to lose their sons and daughters in within this horrific conflict that was started by them, unfortunately. Um, but that is all that I do have for today, Muhammad.
That's all I got as well, honestly. We talked about a good amount. Full
Yeah, talked
episode.
about a good amount, definitely. And there's a lot out there, and we will continue to provide our listeners with the best engaged, balanced, and informative information, as we always do. And we truly appreciate all of the surging of subscriptions that we've seen from our individuals that are listening and or watching our videos. We greatly appreciate it. We're currently at 43, I believe the count was. So we've gone up like plus 10 or 11. So we appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares, and individuals subscribing. Continue to share the channel because the more subscribers we get, the broader our reach is, and that can get us close to monetization, hopefully. And then we can actually do some very, very good things. So
We'll
as
grow.
always,
I'm confident we will.
definitely in due time. Definitely in due time. We're just coming up on a year soon, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, in due time, we will get there, and that will be all because of your support and us being dedicated to this podcast and to this cause. And as always, as the sign off to our listeners, thank you for joining us today on Behind the Ballot, where we keep politics engaged, balanced, and informative. Stay curious, stay critical, and stay involved. I'm Mikkel Jenkins, and until next time, keep looking beyond the headlines and behind the ballot.
This
And
was
go 76ers, baby.
oh,
Taking
yeah,
on
it's
New York.
playoff tonight, right? Who are they playing?
They face New York, Jalen Bumson.
Jalen Pumps.
Jalen
I
Bumson and
actually haven't heard that
the
before.
big and the little cat himself, Carl Anthony Towns,
Alright,
little
word.
kitty.
Well, best
So
of luck
hopefully
to the
they get a
city of
win. But
Philly, and, thank you all for listening. This is Muhammad Alec also signing off. God bless you all. God bless America. And for Mikal, I'll do a God bless Philadelphia as well. How about
yes,
that?
God bless Philadelphia people. Hopefully we get a win and we just take them all. Sixes and seven. Sixes and seven.
Well, that's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good.